Welcome everybody to our Facebook Live today. I am Alisa Meredith, the Content Marketing Manager of Tailwind, and I am joined today by this lovely lady, Kate All of Simple Pin Media. How you doing, Kate?
I am good. I'm good. I am baking in the hot sun here.
Yeah, I see that.
But I got my air conditioning.
Nice little glow going on. Yep.
So yeah, I know a glow. So this is the new look.
Yes, you have a tan even. Even your head is tan.
Yeah, I do actually. I do have a tan.
Yeah. But, you know. So we're, oh, hi, Melissa. We're waving at you too. Hi. Yeah, so we were just catching up on all the important things like weather. We've swapped weather. I'm getting all Kate's rain and Kate's getting all my sunshine. So, you know, just doing a little sharing here, but that's not why we're really here. Oh, I'm here with my little BB-8 microphone. I'll move that out of the way for you.
It's entertaining.
Yeah. So we are here to talk about resharing on Pinterest.
Yeah. And I am excited to dive into this because we get I feel like you and I get a lot of questions about this.
Yes.
There's a lot of confusion.
There is a lot of confusion. And this is so very topical because we have a lot of people who used to use Board Booster, right? And so that strategy was really built around resharing over and over and over again. So then the question now becomes, what is the right way to do it? What's the wrong way to do it? How do we do it in a way that builds healthy, sustainable growth as opposed to building kind of a spammy account? So let's just kind of get into it. So why should we be resharing? I mean, why isn't it enough just to save once?
I think one of the things that we know about Pinterest is that there's constantly new users on the platform and new content coming onto the platform. And before, you know, in the beginning, it was because you kind of saw it. And then people weren't really trained to search. So it was like you wanted to share it in the beginning because you wanted people to see it in their home feeds and their smart feeds. Well, then actually when we changed to the smart feed, then it was like, we want to continue to share because we see that people find this of value. So maybe if I pin it again, it'll be distributed to other people and then other people might search for it. It might get found by this person and show up in their smart feed. Yeah. So really that's the biggest reason is exposure.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know, there are, how many pins are there on Pinterest these days?
I think you put 100 billion.
100 billion pins saved every month. Which is insane, absolutely insane. So, I mean, as you mentioned, like we have a smart feed now, so it's not totally chronological, but we also do have that follower tab. Do you use that yourself?
You know, I haven't. I have only checked it every once in a while. Like when my group talks about it or they're talking about followers, I'll check it. But I think, you know, even when I ask some of my friends who are not in the online world who use Pinterest as users, they still do the same thing of the scrolling through your smart feed and then searching. Yeah. So I think it depends on if users actually know that it's there, like, and they can use it. So I just forget about it. I think I've just been conditioned. You know, when you go to Pinterest, and I think this is for most users, I'm looking for a certain idea. And I want inspiration, you know, like I'm changing up our kids' bathroom. So I'm really into like, what color vanity do I want? And it has to be a custom one. And then what color top do I want? And I'm pinning all these pictures of faucets and, you know, like we go with intent. So I think that's kind of the same thing that the user does. That's our first point of action. Whereas maybe if they're bored, they get to followers.
Yes, true. But interestingly, I mean, even in the smart feed, right? That's where our pins are showing up first, is in the smart feed of people who follow us. So I did a little math. You know how I feel about math, but even if you or I just follow 1,000 pinners, which isn't really that many, and let's say each of them shares 10 pins a day, which is about average, then you could have 10,000 pins. I told you it was easy math. 10,000 pins in your follower tab, or that we're trying to find their way into the smart feed every single day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. So this is why all the platforms end up developing these algorithms to help kind of prioritize what gets shown. So if you only send your pin out that one time, the chances of your followers missing it are pretty high, right?
Yeah.
unless they're doing a search. And you're right, absolutely. Most of the activity that happens on Pinterest is happening in search.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of smart feed activity too. So, I mean, I think important to think about that, even though, yes, a pin lasts forever, we do want that first exposure to mean something. And also, we want to be sending our pins out at the right time.
Yeah.
Right? So using like a smart schedule from Tailwind, which kind of analyzes your content, your followers, when they're online and engaging, can give you a huge leg up as far as trying to get in front of them when they're likely to engage. Because why?
Well, because then they're going to pin it and reshare it and click it and open it.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you that a couple people have asked me, and I've been curious about it with Tailwind.
Okay.
So does Tailwind still have the ability to connect to your Google Analytics? Do they still do that or no?
It has not been updated for a while, so I'm not really sure what the status on that is.
Got it.
But just to go back for a minute to pinning at the right times when your followers are engaged.
Right.
Super, super important as far as Pinterest SEO goes.
Right.
Because they're watching when your pin hits that feed. They want to see, first of all, they're going to show it to your followers, and they want to see how your followers are engaging. So if they ignore it, Pinterest might think, oh, this is not engaging content. And it may not go too much further, but you have a huge potential to reach a very wide audience, to end up in search, end up in the smart feed of other pinners who don't follow you, if you get that engagement right out of the gate. So.
And that's actually like the Google Analytics thing didn't come out of left field. It was actually somebody had asked me about their kind of high user times that they saw in Google Analytics and seeing how that matched up with Tailwind Smart Schedule. And they hadn't directly matched it up, but it was getting to that question of, okay, I see people are coming to Pinterest or to my site from Pinterest at these times. Should I match up my pinning as well during those times? And I was like, well, that's a really great question.
That is a really good question. And that's something that I can ask the team, because I wasn't around yet when they built that. So I'm not really sure how that works. Laura says it was her. She wanted to know what. Yes,
Laura, it was you.
Laura,
I'm so glad you're on here. Yes.
Yeah, that is a great question. But
they can answer it later, but it was more to that point of like when you see lots of people are clicking on it, that's when you definitely want to be pinning.
Exactly. Yep. And it's really great to hear that you're getting a high time on, what is that, time on site?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And your bounce rate lowers.
Yeah. So that will help you tremendously in Google search as well. So it all works really well together. So that's kind of why reshare. Do you feel like we covered that one?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And I loved your point about the fact that new people are coming on, right? And new people are following you all the time. So give them
new people are searching.
Yeah.
Even if they don't follow, they might search and find your content.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So here is a big one. And it's not displaying. Here it is. So how far apart should I schedule reshares of the same content? What do you say? And I kind of think there are two different ways to think about it, but you go first.
Okay. It's evolved over the years.
Okay.
I'll say that. So I would say if we're dealing with the same piece of content, right? Like we're this brown butter Rice Krispie treats. Let's pull that out of the hat.
Okay. Let's start with the food cravings right now. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So if I have this and it's just doing so well.
Yeah.
I might pin it once a day, like with 24 hours apart, maybe to a different board, mostly because I want to add in my other content to be peppered in there as well. But I want each day this to be going out to my dessert board, to my gluten-free board, because it doesn't have gluten in it, to best treats for kids or whatever it is. And then I might like back off a little bit, but I don't have a problem with the 24-hour rule. Or even 12 hours, especially I think the biggest thing being, I don't want to rapid fire 20 of my brown butter Rice Krispie treats all at once, right? Yeah. I could definitely want to space it out. So I think 12 to 24 hours is kind of where I've landed with that, give or take.
I'm in the same camp. So when a blog post first comes out, and I have to say, I change this up all the time. You probably do too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll go 1 day, sometimes I'll go 4 days, but Pinterest even says, share your new content to every relevant board. And I feel like I want to do that sooner rather than later. So
yeah, like the first day, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
So I will share immediately to the most relevant board, because that's what Pinterest has instructed us is real important. So they want to reward us as creators, because they want that great fresh content on Pinterest so that it's a great user experience, so people keep coming back. So if you are an active content creator, they're going to reward you. And one of the things they've told us to do is to pin to the most relevant board first, because that data from your board will attach to that first pin, right? So they know it's your content. So as you are pinning your pin of your content, pick that most relevant board. I think most of us have one board that's like our blog board, and everything that we ever write goes in
Simple Pin Media. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We all have, well, most people have that, and it's usually one of our best boards, but it's usually not your most relevant board. Right. So pick something a little more directly related to that content, share it there, and then spread out the rest of your sharing. So in Tailwind, I have board lists for different topics. Do you use board lists?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah. And interval pinning. So you can say, I want it to go to all my Pinterest boards, and I want it to go 24 hours apart, or whatever you want it to do. So that's like the first resharing. But what about like sharing to the same board again?
You know, I'm not as much of a stickler about that either. Mostly because what I have observed is the habits of a user isn't to go to a board and browse it, right? Like, and before, what would happen is if you clicked on a pin, the board content would be to the right. And so you'd be able to kind of see it, and you didn't really want people to see it. Do you remember that? Yeah. So you wanted that to be a variety. And now what you see is when you open up the pin, then you see related pins. So you're not really drawn back into the board. And users, myself even, I don't notice if somebody pins it twice to the same board very close together. And if they do, they do. So I would say some of my popular stuff, I'm okay with a week apart, you know, as long as I've pinned other stuff. I definitely don't want somebody to happen upon the board and have, you know, my how to clean up Pinterest boards like back to back to back to back to back. I want it to have a variety there. So I'm not really as concerned, you know, if you've pinned a ton to, I'd say I've pinned a lot to my Pinterest marketing boards over the last couple of days. I pinned like 30 pins for some reason. I'm okay sharing it then on day 4, because I have all this other stuff there. And what I love is that Pinterest hasn't put this line in the sand that says you can't pin this close together and blah, blah. And I think everybody wants that.
Yeah.
But
like
they've been, like the type A rule follower. Yeah. But I think they've been really good at giving us a lot of freedom. So if you follow that rule of, well, don't spam your boards with the same pin and you're good.
Yep.
Then I think that's good.
Yes. Okay. And I will agree with you. I just shared again a link to a blog post that we wrote in partnership with Pinterest, because we really wanted to get these best practices in place. So actually that wasn't the one. I shared the wrong one. Sorry. Let me give you this one. Would be the right one. They both have the same best practices, but
one of the things I want to bring up about this point, because I think it's such a stickler for people who don't understand Pinterest, or not a stickler isn't the right word, but it's a hurdle. One, the people who don't understand how Pinterest works are paranoid to pin their pins again to the same board. They're really worried. It's almost like, am I going to get in trouble? Right. And then with them, it's like, pin away, like have fun. And it's where the freedom of the Tailwind pop-up that tells you when you last pinned it. That's what I love. Because I'm like, okay, pinned it like 3 months ago. We're good. Like I can totally pin it. So that when Tailwind introduced that, I remember we were all like, hallelujah. Amazing. Because you forget. And I'm not a spreadsheet person. I'm not going to haul out and keep track of when I pin something. And I think that just becomes a distraction from the overarching looking at your boards, from kind of like opening them up, taking a look at them and seeing how you're doing, and kind of like doing this high level. Okay, I can pin here and I can pin here. There's a lot more freedom that I think people don't know about Pinterest marketing, and they feel very restricted. And I want people to remove that so they can feel the freedom to just pin.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that some of this might come from people who are coming from the Google SEO world, where the thought of like reposting a blog post on your site is horrifying. Right. That's like a no. And I think there is even some controversy and speculation about that, but I think that's where that concern comes from. That is not a concern on Pinterest. So I kind of have two different theories on that. And it comes from a place of how much content do you have. So if you have 2,000 blog posts to share, then you have so much variety that you can share 10 a day, like reshare them 10 a day, and it would never get repetitive or boring or spammy, right? It would still be a good experience for your followers and for anybody else who happened upon you. But if you only have 10 to 20, you're going to want to spread those out, right? Because that gets super repetitive and boring.
And add in other people's content, because that's great too.
Yep. And so if you only have those few pieces of content, there are things that you can do to make them go further. Right? So how do you do that, Kate? Because I know you've done that.
Yes. One of the things that we look at, so I was actually talking with a potential client this morning who has an e-commerce company, and she's not have time to create blog content. Okay. So her content marketing side is just kind of non-existent. So her question was, can I still do it with a limited amounts of products or content? She had a lot of products actually. And one of the key ways is pinnable images. And if you take an image, for hers was Roman shades. Well, she could have one pin image that goes to the Roman shades category page. She could have another one that goes to her European Roman shade and, picking out that one that goes in the options there, one that goes to every single product. Or if you do have blog content, you can create multiple images. And there isn't, again, this rule that Pinterest says you can only pin so many images of one post. You can do as many as you want. But I think especially for the e-commerce side, you have a lot of freedom with very little content if you're creative with your pinnable images.
Completely agree. And Pinterest has even come right out and said, create multiple images for the same piece of content because you're going to appeal to different kinds of people. Right. So you can test styles, you can test text on image, no text on image, right? All kinds of things you can do so that you are actually adding quality content to Pinterest, which is what they want and what they are going to reward. So that's one way, making new images. Because, I mean, really, what takes longer, making a new image or writing a blog post?
For me, an image.
Me too.
The image is so much harder. But writing,
post,
give me writing all day long.
Writing?
Yeah, I would write a blog post all day long. I can't. Yeah, so the image is harder for me.
Oh, okay.
Way harder.
Oh, all right. But it doesn't take as long usually.
So let me just
okay, we're going to be real here. Okay.
So when I create images, I don't have an eye for design.
Okay.
I don't. Like I think I do and I want to and no. So for those of you who are like me and you struggle with images as well, I hired somebody because I can create content and I can create my content calendar and my vision and what I see it. But then when I get into the computer and I try to do it, I'm like, it takes me hours.
Oh, okay.
It's like I will be in Canva and I will look. I'm not a perfectionist either. I just know that what I'm looking at, that what I've created is so bad. You can't use
that bad. Come on.
It is so bad. I mean, people are so sweet to me because I'll create something and Tina, who's my creative director, she'll be like, how about I make that for you? And I was like, if you make a way.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So all that to say, like, if you do struggle with that, I think there's a lot of people you can hire to do images for. And what you're looking for when you hire them is to accurately display your product or your content in a way that hooks people in, with good text or no text, but bright colors, they don't have to be red and orange like commonly thought of before, but something that's catchy.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So and let's talk about like which images or which content should I reshare? Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you feel like every piece of content is good to reshare, or what do you do?
I think that there's two types. One, there's the evergreen content, which it applies all year round, year over year. Yeah. It's very applicable. Those are definitely ones you want to reshare. And when you do get into a habit of resharing, you definitely every 6 months want to actually look at that post again. You know, like I use this in every live because it's my only post that does well, but the how to clean up Pinterest boards, I have to look at every 6 months, add new links, make sure it's linking to the right podcasts, make sure that it still looks okay. We've even changed up the images, but that's my pillar Pinterest content. That's where I'm getting it's like my front door to my site from Pinterest. So I want to be very aware that this is getting reshared quite often because it's evergreen. And number two, that has all the components I need to help them get threaded into Simple Pin Media and the podcast and services and all that kind of stuff. So those are definitely the ones that are like my wheels, if you will, to strategy. I share those all the time.
Okay. So that's smart. So you're looking at your analytics and you can see, okay, this piece of content does great when I share it on Pinterest. It's getting saves. People are clicking on it, coming to my site. So then you look at the post itself for content, but it sounds like you've also really optimized it well for conversions.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Basically, I look at it as a path. So there's a lot of different people that will come to that page or that post. So one of them being the average Pinterest user that loves Pinterest. And maybe they were like, how do I clean up my boards? I don't know. And they're not really a marketer. So it's number one. They just probably want the checklist, right? Okay. And then there's that second layer that is a beginning marketer, and they want my checklist, but they also maybe want to learn more about Pinterest. So they'll start listening to the podcast. And then there's the people who maybe, searched how to clean up Pinterest boards. They really don't want to do it. So they come over and they're like, oh, this person will do it for me. So I want something that really hits on all three of those people and then offers them, here you can go listen to the podcast. Here you can take a Pinterest course that I'm an affiliate for. But here you can sign up for your email because I want to have a conversation with you. Right. I don't just want this to be a one-stop. But yeah, I look at my Google Analytics and see this continues to get the most traffic. Yeah. So I'm just going to make sure it makes money. I don't have ads. If you have ads, you can put them on there. But sometimes you can be strategic about affiliate partners and make them look like ads. So mid-post, I have an ad for a course that I'm an affiliate for. So I do things like that.
Okay, great. So if you're kind of not sure which of your posts, because Kate gets really into this stuff, which is wonderful. But if you feel like I don't know if I want to do that, but I do want to know which pins are worth resharing, which ones are worth maybe giving a makeover, you can go to your pin inspector on Tailwind and sort by most saved so that you can get a feel for what is most engaging. Because now we did learn that, okay. I don't even know if I want to say this because we should not be deleting pins. I know. I can send Kate off into a tangent here, but part of the reason is because a pin pretty much stands on its own. So the success or failure of one single pin versus another does not necessarily hurt your account. Now, what we have learned kind of since, or just kind of an expanded understanding, is that repeatedly sharing unengaging content over time will hurt you. Now, that does not mean that you should go in and delete pins that aren't performing, because by the time you've done that, Pinterest already knows it was not engaging, right? So just keep moving forward, always looking ahead on Pinterest and trying to share what you know is engaging. Now we have some really great questions. One of them was, do you need to change descriptions when you repin? And that was the point I wanted to make sure we got across very clearly, because you don't have to, but you do get an SEO advantage when you do, which makes sense, right? So the quote from Pinterest is, just make sure to add specific descriptions for each pin. It'll improve your SEO. Now, why is that? It's pretty obvious, right? Yeah. So if you have if for your Pinterest cleanup, you have one description that is focused on Pinterest cleanup, and then you have another one about organizing your boards, right? It's different aspects of the same thought that would all make sense once the person got to the pin, but it will help your pin appear in different searches.
And do you know what it was interesting about that one is that when I released it was in the springtime, and I put spring cleaning, spring clean your Pinterest boards into my description. And I think it got picked up in spring clean and just took off, which is how I got the regular Pinterest user, right? Because they're searching these tips and they're like, oh, I never really thought about this. Okay.
Very, very smart. Okay. And then also about hashtags, using new hashtags. Absolutely. Try different hashtags. People do use them. They will help your content, especially your newer content, to get picked up. So definitely try different sets of hashtags.
And I have a podcast next week about hashtags. I record, or is it next week? It's in a couple weeks.
Okay.
But with Jennifer Priest, and it was like so many actionable tips for you to test hashtags.
Ooh.
It was so awesome. I was like writing things down. So it'll be fun.
Okay. Excellent. I can't wait for that one. Laura wants to talk a little bit about resharing to group boards. Yes or no? Yes. This one can be sticky, right? So most group boards have rules.
Yep, they do. And I will say that you have to back up a little bit and examine, is the group board worth resharing to? And so one of the ways that we do that is the pin inspector with Tailwind. You know, we go into the board and we analyze the pins in that particular board that we've pinned to see, is it actually getting repins? Or people like this content? So there's an element of you can pin over and over to a group board if you want, especially if they have no rules. But is it really worth the pin? You know, like I would say no.
Pin, Kate?
Right. No engagement. That's the harm.
That's the harm. That's
so you want to get that engagement. So if your personal board gets way more traction than a group board, and we've seen this for years, people favor all these group boards over their personal boards because they think, oh, it has more followers or it has this, but yet they're neglecting these personal boards, which have really powerful search terms and traffic and could grow your profile.
That's right.
Don't swing the other way. I guess I would say we're in that phase where group boards just are not being used the way Pinterest designed them. And so they've been very clear about that. Like, you know, they're not really serving the purpose of what we designed them to be.
Yeah. So the original purpose was for collaboration, true collaboration. So if you're using it to boost your content distribution, don't, because it's not going to work that well. And we say that, but then again, you want to look at your board insights in Tailwind to see, are your group boards performing? Beyond that, are the individual pins in that group board performing, which you can also see in Tailwind. I have to say, I have turned some of my group boards back into regular boards.
Yes.
Because I felt like I needed to keep that topic, but they weren't working the way I wanted them to. So that's another danger, right? You could put all this time and effort into pinning to a group board, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
So I have a question about that for people who are probably wondering if they want to do the same thing. When you did take that board back to personal, did you remove the contributor and then all their content left the board, or did you just remove the contributor and all the content stayed on there?
Oh, goodness. You would ask me that.
Sorry.
Why don't I get look? Why don't
I know I get
right now.
You know, I haven't done it in a while. So I mean, they could have removed it, but I think that's a big question on people's minds as they have been removed from a group board themselves. You know, well, my content's still on there, but I mean, I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. It's more just, I was curious what you did.
Yeah. So I can look that up and get back to you, because I didn't really think about that too much, because I feel like
I think most people don't.
Yeah. I think you kind of hit on this, this point of how things are changing a bit, because for a long time we tried to kind of force Pinterest into a social mold, right? Yes. Where it was all about sharing and collaboration, and it can be, but the biggest advantage you're going to have is all about you, right?
Yes.
It's about your content and your boards. And that's
on every other platform, it's like that too. right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think we just, for the longest time, there was that idea that Pinterest loved, the reciprocity piece was like super important. And not to say that it's not, but let your content shine. That's okay. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and the reciprocity is still important, but it's important as it's happening on your content.
Exactly.
Right. So if you and I go out onto Pinterest and we save a bunch of pins from each other's Pinterest accounts, Pinterest doesn't look at that and think, oh, Kate and Alisa are good Pinterest players. I'm going to reward them. They don't care about that.
No.
Sarah made that really clear. Yeah.
Yes. Because there was a common theory out there, and I believed it for a while too, and it's based on something that was in some Google Doc or something that we misinterpreted. But yeah, there's not this reward, if you will, that we thought.
That's right. Okay, so let's talk about how not to reshare in Pinterest.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And the reason we kind of have to go there is because some people are missing the automation that they used to have, and they want to kind of replicate this set it and forget it automated looping thing. And it's not going to help, right? So we talked about resharing with purpose, like resharing what works when it works. If you're sharing Christmas is probably as close to year round as a seasonal thing gets. But if you're sharing your Easter stuff in November, it's probably not going to help. So you want to definitely be a lot more strategic about it. The other thing is, and this touches on some of the questions I've seen here too, when you are sharing your own content, what you want to do is actually save it. So either save it from your site or save it using Tailwind, because what you don't want to do really is to go onto Pinterest and repin it directly from Pinterest to Pinterest. Right. So we kind of used to think that if we did that, that would be an engagement signal, and Pinterest would be like, oh, this content is engaging. Nope. They know it's you. So So we may actually sometimes slip up and say repin it. What we really mean is reshare it.
Yes. It's all those terms. It's like,
it's tricky.
It is tricky.
Yeah. So Katie has a question about adding multiple Pinterest images to your blog posts.
Ooh,
you have a plugin that you like for that, right?
Yes. I do like Tasty Pins because you can allow, that hidden Pinterest image, or even just designate the Pinterest image. So I do like that. I tend to be of the mind that I don't like to hide the images. I don't see any reason to hide the image. So I like to have one at the top. If you're a food blogger, it's really beneficial to have an in-process shot. People really like to see the steps, happening. Those are really powerful on Pinterest. They tend to do well. But also think about readability, and especially if you have ads. So site speed, again, is a big component. So how long does it take these images to load? How long does it take people to get to the content? And oftentimes users on Pinterest they want to get to what they want. Make that really easy for them, and don't barrel down with 8 Pinterest images and then they can't find the content.
Okay. That's a good point. Okay. So another question kind of about descriptions. How long should a description be? Are these important as hashtags? Do you want to
There's the limit of 500 characters.
Okay. But
I tend to go 2 to 3 sentences that are naturally written, keywords, and then put your hashtags at the end. In the podcast we were talking about doing the branded hashtag first. So Simple Pin Podcast or Simple Pin Media. And then the hashtags, matching the keywords, testing out that. Never replacing a keyword with a hashtag in a sentence. You never want to do that. So you just want to put them at the end. There was some trouble. They were not hyperlinking for me the other day. They weren't showing up for me the other day. I think they're a little bit glitchy right now, the hashtags. So as far as description, your whole goal is not how long you can go, but how can you make it a naturally sounding couple sentences with keywords peppered in there so that Pinterest can read it, know what it's about, and match it up with the person who's searching for it.
Yes. Yeah. And the second part of that question was, are descriptions as important as hashtags? Yes.
More important.
Yes, they are, because your hashtags will only show up. They don't show up when someone repins, and they show up in reverse chronological order. So your description is what's going to give you the long-term results. Hashtags are great. Definitely use them to get found quicker. But yeah, descriptions, that's where it's at.
Agreed.
Another question. This one comes up, I think, every time. Should we pin 25 times a day, or what is the magic number? There's no magic number. We always want magic numbers.
Again, that's back to what I was talking about in the beginning. Like, don't see Pinterest marketing as formulaic, but see it as really, how do I target the person who's searching for my content? Yeah. And every time somebody asks me the question, like, our packages are designed by 10, 20, 30 pins, and we're refining that to not be so subject to number of pins per day, because we realize that it's really dependent on the amount of content you create. Yes. If we work with a food blogger that's 8 years old and has been blogging for 8 years, and they have thousands and thousands of pieces of content, well, 30 might make more sense because we can rotate through so much, and we would want to get their content out there. If you're dealing with somebody, like you said in the beginning, with 10 to 20 pieces of content, it does not make sense for us to be pinning 30 pins a day. That's all of their content every single day.
And someone else's.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say really go with what can you sustain to where it doesn't get you to the point of spamming and pinning the same thing over and over and over again. I have 120 posts-ish podcasts, and I still only pin about 6, 7 of my pieces of content per day. Okay. And a total of maybe around 10. So I'm not going to jump up to 30, even though I have 120. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Could be too repetitive. Okay. So Kelly wants to know if there's a penalty for having too many personal boards. I just want to say straight out, there really aren't any Pinterest penalties.
Thank you.
But like, what is too many personal boards, Kate? What do you think?
Okay, so I used to think between 75 and 100 was like a good range. And that was because we had tested a few things. However, if I'm thinking about what Pinterest has said about the board name, the board description, and the pin description, and this keyword mapping, path map, whatever you want to call it, I want to be strategic with the boards that I do have. So if I can, Jillian from Catch My Party, who also does Milotree, we did a podcast together, and she said she has 450 boards. I know, that's crazy. But everything is party themed. It's all focused on her target market. And I was like, okay, well then I don't want 450 boards because I feel like it's too much to manage. But it made sense for her and how she serves her audience, because parties is, wide. You can go deep, girl, boy, whatever. So for you have to ask the question, how deep do I need to go with each board? Am I going to create content for that board and be consistently sharing my content to it? And if that lands at 75, great. If that lands at 200, great. But
or if it's 10.
Or I only have 37, I think, or something like that. But what we don't want to see, and what we do see quite a bit, is, let's say you have 200 boards and 130 of them are group boards, because there was this mad dash to join group boards and there's not a lot of personal. Okay. So I tell people, dial that back to make your personal boards shine. Everything is keyworded. Your description's filled out. Because when I was in the making, the Pinterest conference, the guy I was listening to made a great point. And he said, if you have a women's fashion board, and somebody pins from it, and then everything is on there, fall, winter, spring, well, then that signal of that person sharing a pin from there tells Pinterest, oh, maybe we can serve up more pins to this person from this board because they liked that one. Well, maybe we're in fall and they're sharing, spring, because that's what's on the board. So Pinterest wants us to be specific so that they can serve their users with the content they actually want, and then open up more paths, right? So That's my theory behind, like less boards, more niche can be more powerful than just having a ton of boards. So Jillian's great because she's got her niche down. They're all party related.
Okay.
So it just depends on your niche.
Yeah. So I kind of start maybe backwards. I start with what content you have on your board and looking at each piece of content and making several homes for it on your Pinterest account. So you want to make sure there's at least one super specific niche board that this piece of content will fit on, then one that's a little broader, maybe a couple that are a little more broad, but that's what I go on. I don't go by a number of boards or anything else.
Do you use sections?
No, not unless it's a personal board.
I'm getting lots of questions lately about that.
Are you? Okay. What kind of questions are you getting?
Should I use them? Well, I say no for two reasons. One, Pinterest hasn't really said yet how we should. I mean, they've said how as a personal user how you should use them. I don't have any indicators, marketer. But
they did recently say that they are starting to give an SEO signal.
Yes.
Right? So that was the big thing at first. At first, it was just, no, they have nothing to do with SEO, so stick to niche title boards. Now they have something to do with SEO. However, having a niche board or a board section makes no difference, and you can't schedule to a board section.
Yes, it's the scheduling piece.
And I think really the reason people wanted sections on their boards for business is because they're thinking people are going to go to their board and they're going to browse by section. But what did we say?
Nope. They're not even going to go to boards.
That's right. They're searching. They're finding you in search.
And that plays into, like, if you're going to spend time, like, cleaning up your boards and organizing your boards, set a timer for yourself and do not spend a ton of time.
Yes.
Don't. Because you are better served creating content for those boards than making your boards look beautiful.
That's right. I completely agree. All right. This is all going to be in the replay, and there are a ton of questions that we just can't get to that I will come back to and answer in a bit. But I want to get to what to pin now, Kate. It's the beginning of August when we're recording this. I have been hearing about holidays pins showing up like crazy, and it was like a month ago in July. People were doing Thanksgiving.
I know. So I will say, I just did a podcast last week about what to pin in August, and I was going to get you the link for that.
Okay. Yes, too.
And so I would say what's interesting. So we've been tracking Pinterest data now for, like, I don't know. This is going on our almost 5th year, right? And one of the things that we find really fascinating is that August fall goes crazy. Like everything fall, everything organization, everything Halloween starts to trend. And we really see, and it's not for everybody, so I don't want people to think that like they're not fitting into this mold, but we tend to see users start using Pinterest again very heavily August to mid-February. Some of that could be that, people are taking vacations. They're more offline in June and July.
You want to be outside.
Be outside. Exactly. Whereas, a lot of schools have started. We have not. We don't start for another month. But a lot of schools in the Midwest, they start now. And so people are back to school is trending like crazy because people are getting back into systems and organization. And how do you, meal plan and all of these things, I think, start to take off. And even in July, we see that midway point of Christmas, and we see big giant sales like Prime Day and the Nordstrom sale and all these other things that are happening to start getting us in this mood of here comes fall, So don't be surprised if you see a pumpkin spice something show up in your smart feed.
Hey, I saw pumpkin spice yogurt at Target last month.
See, okay. This is a good rule of thumb for Pinterest marketing.
Yeah.
Follow what Target is doing.
Target or any craft store.
Target or any craft store. Exactly. Yep. And I use Target because I go there a lot. If you walk into Target and the special seasonal section is back to school, start pinning back to school. If it's Halloween, pin Halloween. And Pinterest in its best practices said 45 days before the event is usually optimal time. And there's several DIY Halloweeners, and Halloween is now the highest, like, what do you call that? I'm not getting the right profit margin, or not profit margin, but the highest
people spend the most money on Halloween after Christmas or something. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. I know. It is crazy. Yeah. And it's something that I heard, and I wish I could remember which store it is, but there is some store that actually started displaying their holiday items earlier because of data they got from Pinterest.
Nice. Yeah. People are planners.
Yes.
They're not kidding around.
Yeah, and Kelly Thomas says, WWTD, what would Target do?
Exactly. Kelly, every time you walk into Target, you're going to just go,
what?
But I should be pinning right there. You see sweaters,
exactly
start
right.
pinning them. Yeah. Yes. Fall clothes. I mean, you know, it's 96 degrees outside. I'm not getting anywhere near a sweater for months.
Yes, but, please no.
Yeah, but people are definitely planning. You know, that's also another element of like the big retailers like Nordstrom. Everything that's in their big sales is for the fall. It's not for the time. You can see clearance now is great. It's all summer. This is the best time to buy a swimsuit. You know,
if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I don't understand what got us down that train of thinking, that train of thought. But
well, what's a pin now? That's what it is.
Yes,
it's way earlier than you think it should be, but that's just the way people are using Pinterest. So that's what we need to pin. And that's another thing to think about when you're thinking about resharing your content is if you have that seasonal stuff, you're probably going to need to start sharing it earlier than you think in the year. We do have Smart Loop in beta at Tailwind right now. We are slowly rolling it out. We want to make sure everything works and we get all the feedback we need. We know people are very, very anxious to have it, but it is coming, and it's going to implement all of these resharing best practices and make sure that everybody does it in a way that's healthy and sustainable. So there's another quick question I just wanted to address about sharing. Okay, it's from Crystal, who says it's so much easier to quickly scroll and schedule our own content on Tailwind from their brand's Pinterest board. So I think she's looking maybe at board insights and then going to pin inspector from there. Is it okay to schedule Tailwind that way? Yes, absolutely. So you'll see next to each pin in your pin inspector, reshare this pin or schedule a repin, something like that. Everything that ever comes from Tailwind is considered a fresh pin, and that's what you want for your own content. So yes, please feel free to do that. That is a great way to do it, right? Because when you're in the pin inspector, you're seeing, ooh, this pin got a lot of engagement. This is one I want to share again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love that feature. My team loves that feature.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Because then you don't have to go back through a board to try to find where it is. And one of the things too is you still want to share to that board and, your main like blog board to share from that, later down the line. And here's a tip that I've started implementing is it's a great place to send your audience to find all of your content in one place. And so do a call to action. Head over to my Pinterest board. It has all my content. You can scroll through, pin what you want for later, put that in your email list, put it on Instagram, put it on Facebook, so that you're doing cross-social promotion, but you're also sending them to a place where they can share. You can see all your content and easily pin it. It's just, it's there.
So you're using it as kind of a search and hoping they'll pin. That's pretty clever, Kate. It's pretty clever. That's why we have you on this show.
I do bring a few things to the table.
You do. So I'm just going to drop this and watch you react.
Oh, gosh.
Much ado about reach. Go.
Okay. What should we do about reach?
Much ado about reach. I mean, how many blog posts do you see about what my Pinterest reach is, or in your Facebook group? My reach on Pinterest has fallen by 900%.
Okay.
And
let's talk about this.
Yes.
Because at first I was like, where's she going with this? Now I know. Now I'm tracking. Okay. So when Pinterest changed their profile, there's this beautiful number. or maybe you hate it. It's called monthly viewers on your profile. Let's just go ahead and take that number and it's just a number. Let's call it just a number. It's a compilation of people who view your profile, engage with your pins, click on your pins, impression. Like, it's all of that put together. It in no way indicates your reach or your traffic. So you go to your friend's page and hers says 1.5 million. You go to my page and it says like 400,000 or something. I don't even know what it says. That doesn't mean I get less traffic than your friend. That just means maybe less people saw my stuff during this certain frame of time. I don't know. Or maybe
she's probably because they're a lifestyle blogger and you write about business.
Right, exactly. Right. So when you're really thinking of reach and what impact you're having, that's why, like, when I was talking about like how to clean up Pinterest boards, you definitely want to look at your Google Analytics and you want to see what traffic am I getting from Pinterest? Mm-hmm. And if you see a blog post or you see something on Pinterest that talks about, I increased my reach by 1 million impressions. They could have 1 million impressions and 0 clicks because people just saw their pin. Maybe they didn't take action. So having a high number of impressions and a very low number of clicks is kind of an indicator that something might be off. Why are people not clicking on your pin? Why are they not taking action? Yeah. You know, why did they just thumb by? So I guess, you know, with reach, I don't want people to be lulled into a sense of these numbers of impression or visits on Pinterest or any of that. You know, somebody sends me a picture of Pinterest analytics and I'm like, I can't look at that. Give me something else. Like, I can't make a
There's
decision.
a lot of really good stuff in there, but looking at impressions or reach is not it.
Nope.
You cannot pay the bills with reach.
No. And you know, you could use it for like a sponsored post and then maybe technically get paid if you're a blogger that does that. Mm-hmm. But in honesty, any brand that falls for that as a good indicator of,
they need to be a little more sophisticated, perhaps, if they want to get the best results. Smart. Yes. So, yeah. And if you see huge jumps in your reach, that probably has more to do with the seasonality of search terms than anything else.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing is if you are actively creating content on Pinterest every single week, adding new content, like a brand new blog post, a new product listing or something, you're going to see all those numbers go up. But really, like Kate said, the only one you care about are visits to your website.
Yeah, that is really the only one. And you also want to be thinking about asking your audience to share for you. That has a really powerful impact when you build this, like, let's say you're going to do new content every single week on Wednesday morning and your audience starts to know and they start to expect it. Well, then they start to share it for you. And we've definitely seen with a lot of our clients who create consistent content and they start to build their audience in whatever way, they share for them. And we see this increased traffic over time because of that. So I think those are much more powerful. Like, engage them, tell them, follow me on Pinterest. And sometimes we just need to have people tell us to do something. We're okay.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just don't think about it unless someone mentions it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So like I said, I will go through the rest of the questions and answer them as soon as I can. But I thank everybody for being here, especially thank you for being here, Kate.
You are welcome.
Fun discussion as always. And where can we find out more about you?
Just go to simplepinmedia.com and you can find podcasts and services and blog posts and
excellent.
All there.
Yes, and you said your next podcast coming out will be about Pinterest hashtags on the Simple Pin Media podcast.
Yeah, the podcast coming out tomorrow is about how to find the best Pinterest course.
Oh, okay.
A lot of those out there. So we give you 5 practical tips to think about before you hit the buy button.
Excellent.
And then the following week, I believe, is the hashtag. So next Wednesday.
Excellent. And here at Tailwind, we are just about to release a webinar, especially for e-commerce sellers, how to use Pinterest to increase your sales.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. So be on the lookout. It'll be soon. Okay, so thanks everyone for being here, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye.
Bye.